Hey guys, Mrs. McLean again, and we are doing our second day on our surface area of cylinders. So again, remember we talked about surface area is actually finding the area of every single side that you would have to cover if you were wrapping it in wrapping paper like it was a present. So I'm giving you the formula for surface area, and I'm telling you right here that surface area is the sum, which means you're going to be adding. But what you're going to be adding is you're going to be adding the area of the bases. Now remember, area of the bases, there are two bases. And your base is pi r squared since we're talking about circles. And then we're taking that area of the bases, adding it, but what we're adding it to is we're adding it to the product. We're going to be multiplying. And what are we going to be multiplying? We're going to be multiplying the circumference of the circle, that nice middle part that's going all the way around that shape. And remember, circumference, there were two formulas I gave you before, and that was 2 pi r, 2 times pi times the radius, or pi d, depending if they give you the radius or the diameter. So you're finding the circumference, and then we are multiplying it by the height of that cylinder. So right here we can see I've given you that formula, 2 times that base area, because there's two bases, times the circumference, or plus the circumference times the height. And you can write that formula that way, but I know I kind of like to have that formula written out so you don't forget what they are. 2 times pi times the radius squared. And again, times the circumference, and I don't care which one you have, but if you have the radius, we're going to use 2 pi r, or if I gave you the diameter in the picture, we're going to use pi d. And then, of course, we're multiplying that by the height, and then adding those two problems together. So I'm giving you an example down here, and I've written out our steps, writing out the formula, and you can see right here, I've already written the formula out for you. And then we're going to change all of those variables and symbols to the values that we actually know. So when we go ahead and look at, whoops, let me get this over here. When we go ahead and look at pi, we know pi is 3.14. Whoops, I don't know what I'm doing. There we go. And then I know that the radius is 4, and I've got to square that. Then we got 2, pi again, 3.14, radius 4, and the height, which is 10. Now, using our order of operations, we're going to go ahead and multiply those. Well, 4 squared is 16. So I've got 2 times pi times 16. And then I kind of broke those up because the commutative property of multiplication doesn't matter. We got 6.28 and then times 40. Now let's go ahead and use that order of operations to finish multiplying these together. And when we multiply these together, I would go ahead and get 100.48 plus, and when I multiply these together, I should get 251.2. Now, last step, just adding those together, and I get 351.68, and it's talking about surface area, so it's going to be inches squared. And again, doesn't matter which way that cylinder is facing. If I put it on its side, my formula stays exactly the same. So again, 2 pi r squared, 2 times the area, plus pi times the diameter times the height. So when we go ahead and substitute in all the values that we know, 2 times pi, radius is 7 because it's half the diameter, and then pi, 3.14, diameter is 14, and the height between the two bases is 4. Now, going ahead and multiplying our 7 squared, 7 times 7 is 49. And then I put the 14 and 4 together. It doesn't really matter the order you do. And I got 56. So now when I go ahead and multiply those together, I should get 307.72 plus 3.14 times 56 gives me 175.84. And of course, last thing I'm doing is finding the sum of those, so I'm going to add those together. And when you do, you get 483.68 miles squared. So again, we're just finding the area of the entire outside of the shapes. So we are finding the area of the bases, because if it was a nice present, you'd have to wrap the bottom, you'd have to wrap the top, but you'd also have to wrap the entire middle section around it. And we know that around the outside of a circle is what we call the circumference. So once we did that, we would have wrapped our entire cylinder, and that's what we call our surface area. Hope you have an understand. If not, bring your questions with you to class and we will cover them then.